Just examine your mind in any quiet moment, and you will find a silent searching. A searching for some new worry to hold on to. A searching for some new desire or stimulation to occupy yourself with. A searching for something to be worried or anxious about. The mind is constantly searching. My friends, we are adepts. We are masters at being discontent. Can we become adepts in the reverse as well? Can we learn to build a relationship with that void, with that sacred lack within us, and let it fuel a deeper, more profound state of presence? Hey YouTube, long time no see. Last night I went to a satsang concert, and he played a new song that he had just written, and it was called Chasing Storms or Storm Chaser. And it was about this feeling of when there is too much peace in your life or contentment, that you go seeking out discontentment, you go seeking out a storm to chase, chaos, or you like to loop in some kind of pattern. And today I want to talk about this feeling of discontentment, of dissatisfaction, and how dissatisfaction can fuel addiction, it can fuel neurosis and habitual negative patterns, or it can fuel spiritual growth. So let's dive into it. This is Reality Files. I'm Christian. I'm excited to be back. Let's do this thing. So this past week was a beautiful week here in Durango. I just returned from travels. I was settling into community, hiking with my brothers, pumping out YouTube videos for Wisdom Warriors, my second channel, and generally having a really vibrant time. But after 5-6 days of that and the rhythm of work, of training, of life, of meditation, all of a sudden that started to feel mundane. It wasn't new, it wasn't fresh, right? And I felt the void inside of me calling for more. Wanting maybe a peak experience, perhaps. Wanting something new, wanting something more, wanting deeper love, more profound experiences, a deeper peace, something wow, life's going so good, but how can you still feel lack inside of you? And it's so interesting. I was just talking to my friend yesterday about this idea of lack within us, built into the human experience is this void. And most people go their whole lives trying to fill that void, right? They're like, hey, if I just be successful and get everything I want externally and make my life perfect, I'll always be happy, Or, hey, let me take these drugs or eat this food and watch these things on my phone and on Netflix and do these things with these people and constantly go more, consume, fill the void, and then the void will be filled and I'll be happy. And this is what I want to get into here is something I call the urgings of the void. I'm not a Buddhist, but I think the first noble truth of Buddhism is very revealing here for this universal human experience. The first noble truth of Buddhism is called Dukkha, which means there's suffering. Or a better way to translate it in my mind would be a realization of the unsatisfactoriness of life. Dissatisfaction, unease with the mundane. We all feel this quest for more. Even if life is going great and you do get everything that you need and want, there's still going to be challenges. There's still going to be dissatisfaction. So the question is, what do you do about it, right? When I was younger, a feeling of boredom, of mundanity, of dissatisfaction would come in. And I would be spurred to play video games. A little bit later on, I'd be spurred to hit my e-cigarette, those little hookah pens back in the day. Or then it was rolling and smoking tobacco. Or I'd be spurred to go party, to go do drugs, to go take Adderall, to go do something like that. Because I was bored, I was at unease, I was dissatisfied with life. I was wanting a higher experience, right? And I relate to it now as there was these urges of the void inside of me that was wanting to fill itself. And this void is always hungry. The problem is the more you feed it, the more it grows. The more you smoke, the more you want to smoke. The more you do drugs, the more you want to do drugs. The more you hang out with that person, the more you want to hang out with that toxic person. The more we fill the void, the deeper it grows, right? Smoking tobacco for me for many years was a mechanism I developed to deal with dissatisfaction, to deal with dukkha. So the void wants to want, and we can either fill it, creating addictions, creating chaos in our life, chasing storms perhaps, or we can learn to honor lack, right? And no matter how beautiful you make your life, if you don't learn how to sit and honor lack, sacred lack, you'll never be deeply happy and steadily content. The great thing is when you start to honor lack and have more discipline in your indulgences, the void quiets down. But nonetheless, a subtle sense of lack remains. So 7 months ago, I went through a pretty hard heartbreak, and I had to give up the love of my life. We were together for 5 years, and I really love that woman. And from that heartbreak, I had to sit with lack. I don't have this woman in my life to play with, to make love with, to have beautiful new adventures, and so many things would remind me of her. And one thing's reminded me of her, and they still do to this day. And when grief would come, you can either go into your mind and start catastrophizing and creating all these horror stories. You can, start creating confusion, like longing and missing her. Or you can sit with that feeling of lack as sacred, that feeling of grief, that feeling of not enough, as one of the most beautiful things in life, coming to deepen your heart, to deepen your spiritual practice in a way. The same thing came when I was quitting tobacco. It's like, wow, that feeling of lack comes. I want stimulation. I want to look at my phone. I want these things. And it's like, it's because I'm dissatisfied with life right now. I'm dissatisfied with the breath. I'm dissatisfied with presence. It's not enough, right? It's not enough. And as I keep going on, I just keep realizing that this part of life, this dissatisfaction will never go away. I'm writing an ebook right now. It's called The Mental Habits of a Warrior. It's a companion to my book that's going to be released in 1 month, The Psychology of Slaying Dragons. There's more info about that below. And in this ebook, I have a practice. It's called Be Content Now. I want you to look through the past 24 hours of your life, right? Think about how many times you wanted something. Think about how many times you were unsatisfied with the present moment. Think about how many times you had fear about the next moment, or you were attached to a certain outcome, or you were regretting the past, or you were wanting some other feeling, some other state. Maybe you were tired, maybe you were sad, maybe you were dissatisfied and frustrated with somebody or something in your life, right? Think about all the amount of time you spent being in some degree unsatisfied with the present moment in the past 24 hours. And then think about how much of that time you were taking a deep breath and coming into contentment now. Radical contentment now with whatever is going on in your life, and realizing this may be your last breath, your last day on earth. Just to be grateful for the sensations of life, for the heart that aches, for this breath, emptying out these attachments, these desires, these fears. Be content now. It's a radical practice. I want you to just remember the last time you got sick, right? You're in bed for a week, you had fevers and cold sweats and your stomach hurt, maybe you're throwing up. It was terrible. It's just not fun, right? It's like a lot of suffering. When that sickness passed, just the ability to move, to think, to feel okay, to get sunlight on your body, felt so good. Eating food again felt so good after, 3 days of nausea. You were grateful for the smallest things. Finally, you can leave your house, you can see your friends, you can go to the gym, you can do fun things again. Wow. And how grateful you were for that. 4 days later, though, all of that is taken for granted. This ability to move, just the fact that your bowels don't hurt right now and that you're not sweating is you don't even realize that. You take your body, your ability to think, your ability to feel good, all for granted. There's so many things in our life that, are like just having a house, having food, being well fed, being able to sleep last night, having friends in my life, like all of those things are such a blessing, but we don't perceive them, right? Unless we have a practice of being content now and perceiving this life against the backdrop of death. And the thing is if we don't do those two things, the void will always move us to the next thing, always chasing more. And the more you get, the more unsatisfied it becomes until at some point you have to go inward and realize the sacred lack that lives deep within the heart of the human experience. That is what dissatisfaction is calling you into. It's calling you to deepen your spiritual practice. So today, the next week, when dissatisfaction arises, when you find yourself craving something more, attached to a certain outcome, looking for something, of fearing something else, to take a deep breath and to realize like, hey, I may not have much longer on this earth. Why not be content now? Why not breathe and let this dissatisfaction, let this pain fuel my spiritual connection, my spiritual practice? Just examine your mind in any quiet moment, and you will find a silent searching. A searching for some new worry to hold on to. A searching for some new desire or stimulation to occupy yourself with. A searching for something to be worried or anxious about. The mind is constantly searching. My friends, we are adepts. We are masters at being discontent. Can we become adepts in the reverse as well? Can we learn to be content now? Can we learn to build a relationship with that void, with that sacred lack within us, and let it fuel a deeper, more profound state of presence? The void wants to be acknowledged. The lack wants to be felt. It doesn't want to be covered up externally, but deepened into internally. Lack is sacred, and only when it becomes so does it lead you to the light. So I've gone through the more spiritual Buddhist relationship to dukkha, which is dissatisfaction and suffering. And I want to get into Nietzsche's idea because it's a little bit radically different, but I think complementary to fueling your spiritual practice. Dissatisfaction comes when there's an edge to be pushed, a deeper experience of life to be found. To Nietzsche, discontentment was a good thing because it was the prerequisite to shaking off the boundaries, the limitations, the identity, the shell that you've become, and forging onward to a new becoming. Nietzsche believed in the philosophy of becoming. I am becoming. You are becoming. And life is most joyful when we are in the full flux of becoming. That is power, And he said that this discontentment wells up from this hidden place in your heart. This Dionysian, secret chamber, per se. And this discontentment wells up and it precedes the great downgoing, the great surrendering, the great overcoming, the great changes. And these changes is what makes life fucking beautiful and full and profound and deep. And instead of, filling that discontentment with media, with food, with drugs, with people, it's about letting that discontentment well up and letting it transform your life. So there was two approaches to discontentment I wanted to hit on in this video, and that is let it deepen your spiritual practice. But also it is a call to live at your edge. When I live at my edge, when I work harder, when I create deeper, when I meditate deeper, when I connect with friends in a more profound new way, when I shake off the identity and the form I've come into, life is so much more magical because I am going beyond where I've gone before. Pushing your edge, like running that extra 100 yards on your run, working out a little bit harder. Like going beyond where you've ever gone before makes life beautiful. So it's like dissatisfaction is almost wired into us biologically to push us to become something more, right? And I think that we need to build this twofold relationship with dissatisfaction in the sense of when we're dissatisfied at night or every day in the mundane things, is letting that deepen our spiritual practice because that is the edge, right? That is the edge to be pushed right there is yo, you're discontent after a mundane day of like deep routines, like, hey, how can you deepen that and to let it fuel your spiritual practice? But also, when you're feeling this discontentment welling up from the heart, letting it ripple out through your body and transform things, letting it push you beyond where you've ever gone before, not in the pursuit of more, but in the pursuit of becoming. It's a little key difference there. Dukkha, the acknowledgement of suffering and dissatisfaction, is the first noble truth of Buddhism because it leads to awakening. You have to realize this constant cycle of samsara, of suffering, of dissatisfaction, if you ever want to get off that wheel. And the more awareness we can bring to the dissatisfaction, discontentment, suffering, and pain of life, in our life, and build a positive valuation of those things, that suffering can be used for good. Pain is there to fuel our prayers, suffering to deepen our presence, and dissatisfaction to fuel our spiritual connection. When we can add valuation to those things on this quest of becoming, that is the path of awakening. Thanks for watching this video on Reality Files. There's quite a few more things along these lines I could get into. Let me know your comments, your thoughts in the description below. Also, if you guys want to sign up to get this essay sent to your inbox, my essay on Dukkha and dissatisfaction, there's a link in the description below where you're going to get notified of my book launch and get free essays along the way. Thanks for being here. This is Reality Files. I'm Christian. I'll see you at the next video. Peace.